everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Ryan. This is Jess. We are sober as fuck. Before we get to today's guest, I do want to remind everybody to please make sure you like, subscribe, and share our podcast. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Also, check out our website at ournoon.com, our-noon.com. Plenty of resources, blogs. Jess has a lot of cool stuff on there, including merch as well for the show. Also, any of my NA beer fans out there with Athletic, you can save 20% on your order with my code Ryan STEW20, RYANSTEW 20. What else you got?
I have a quick trigger warning.
Okay.
This has become quite like scripted almost, like you just say the thing. Yeah, I know. So the trigger warning, as you know, if you've listened to the podcast, we talk about all of the things. We talk about substance abuse, self-harm, death, grief, everything, mental health. So if you start feeling some way, please make sure to prioritize yourself and log off. But hopefully you can stick around. And something that we normally don't say, but we should say is stick around to the end of every episode.
Yes, please.
So if you're listening or you have listened and you've never stuck around to the very end, we have some good juicy stuff at the end.
It's always worth it.
So stick around. And that's all I'll say.
That's it.
That's all I'll say. Who we got today?
Today's guest, I'm very excited about. This is our first local guest, which is really cool. So she actually lives here in the Knoxville area. She also is going to be opening, she's in construction right now, of an NA bar of a city right outside of Knoxville called Maryville. It's called Daisy's NA Bar and Bottle Shop. She's been doing a lot of pop-ups throughout, which I've been following her for quite a long time. She's 4.5 years sober. If you don't follow her, you need to. She is sober in Knoxville, which is really cool. So please welcome to the show my good friend, Lindsay Elsten.
Hey.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
Hey, everybody. Good. How are y'all?
Good.
Doing really good. I'm glad to finally get you on the show.
I know. This is exciting. Yeah, you put your call out on Instagram and I answered.
That's right. I love it. And you're in the shop right now, am I right? Waiting on delivery for the new NA bar, huh?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you have to be here for the deliveries, or they won't leave them. It's not like your house.
When is it projected to open? Tell us a little bit about it and the concept and all the things.
Well, yeah, very much inspired by a lot of the bottle shops and sober bars that have been popping up around the area. We even have our own in Knoxville with Frog Juice Kombuchery. And so she's been a big help along the way. But yeah, it just came to be, once I first got sober. Especially, you mentioned we're about 30 minutes outside of Knoxville, so we're a little bit smaller town. And out here, when I first got sober, everything closes at like 6 p.m. except the bars, even the coffee shops. So I didn't have anywhere to go. And so I spent a lot of time traveling back and forth to Knoxville because there's just a little bit larger community there. But yeah, just figured our town deserves this. We might be little, but, we along the way, somebody mentioned, oh, Maryville's a bar town. I would say Maryville's a bar town. We're also a little church town. But why can't we be an NA bar town too? So
I love Maryville too. Maryville College is great and it's small, but there's still like a really diverse group of people there. Mm-hmm. I like Maryville.
Yeah, and I love the downtown area, which is actually where your bar is at, correct? Gonna be downtown?
Yeah, we're on the little outskirts. We're 608 Ellis Avenue. If you're familiar with Walnut Kitchen or
Mhm.
Foothills Milling Company, we're nestled right in between there.
That's awesome. I
Nice.
can't wait for it to open and
Yeah.
get in there and actually do some lives and stuff from the shop, which will really be
Yeah.
cool for us.
What about the name? How'd you come up with the name?
Yeah, Daisy is my little 10-year-old dog. She's not one breed, so that's why I stumbled a little bit. But yeah, she's 10 years old. We've had her since she was 6 months. She has been through our drinking journey. She's been through our sober journey. So she's just been there through it all. And her being a mutt, we really want to get across that, like, this is a place for anyone, no matter your background. I mean, one of the biggest things we've learned in sobriety is you can't let your past determine your future. And so just having that kind of like melting pot, I guess, like the
Mhm.
United States, kind of a little melting pot area, where anybody hopefully can come and feel comfortable, without having to drink.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about your sobriety journey. What was it that changed your relationship with alcohol, and how'd you get sober?
Yeah. Yeah. In the beginning, it all just kind of starts with chaos, I think. Like growing up, there really wasn't anyone in my family that, you know, that was alcoholic. I didn't have, a big kind of hereditary sign that was saying like, this is what you're going to be when you grow up. um, so I just, I didn't, the only image of an alcoholic that I had was from Hollywood. Um, Typically male, typically old, typically under a bridge with a bottle in a paper bag, and that wasn't me. I was living life. I was checking off all of the boxes that society tells you to check off. Met my husband, got married, we got a house, graduated college, all that kinds of things. And so I didn't have what at the time my therapist told me I had a lot of yets. Um, and, so I just didn't have a lot of those repercussions that some people do as a result of drinking alcohol. Now, I did have a lot of it was behind the scenes, very chaotic. It was, me saying or doing things that I regretted after I went out at night, not remembering the night. That was truly my go to because I didn't want to know or have the responsibility of things that I did. So towards the end, it got towards to be just more blackout drinking, um, but yeah, chaos as a more general answer. There was no time that I drank that something bad didn't happen. Um, and then behind closed doors, my husband and I were just having some very gnarly fights. And I think that was hard too because a lot of the reasons why we stopped drinking were not visible to our friends and family. And so that also kept me from getting sober at first. I didn't want to have the shame and guilt. So I started with sober Octobers and dry Januaries. And I was able to get through the 30 days. And so, okay, so I'm not an alcoholic, right? That means I'm not, I worked so hard to try not to have that definition, that label. And I think that that's like a glowing sign of probably being
Yeah.
probably having that if I'm trying so hard, not to be that or to control. I love to control situations. And so yeah, I did my sober months and things like that. I checked off the part about being able to not drink for 30 days. But then my behaviors after that were of somebody that I really had a romantic relationship with alcohol. I was in love with it. It was the only thing that could ease my general discomfort of being myself. And so when I would get done with those months, I celebrated in the only way I knew how, which was binge drinking. And it would be worse every time. It never got better. I never could just have one. And so I knew early on that that there was probably going to be something that I was going to have to do about my drinking. Because I just liked it so much. And I didn't see anybody else have that kind of infatuation with it, except my husband, which is why I think we connected so well early on. Thankfully, after we removed the alcohol, we still had that connection too. But to get into sobriety, I had those trial runs. Then one night we had a pretty bad fight between ourselves. And again, another great idea of mine was this was all his fault. I was drinking as much as I was in the way that I was because of him. And that was my story for a long time, that it was all him. He was in the wrong. He had a problem. And so ended up asking him to leave the house until he could figure out himself. And he came back and we talked about things. And I said, I'm a proponent of therapy. I had been in it off and on, even during drinking, because my depression and anxiety were so bad while I was drinking. So I told him, I said, you have to go to therapy or AA. And at that time, he chose AA. He went, and I always joke about this, that Stinker brought back all the stupid brochures that they have at the clubhouses. And one of them was a very cosmopolitan-esque, if you check these boxes, you might be an alcoholic if. And so I was like, oh, fun. This is easy. Check. I was like, wait a minute. I wasn't supposed to learn about myself here. And so after that, I just thought, I was like, I just don't, what could it hurt? So I ended up going to my first AA meeting a couple days after he did. Again, it was more of a shooting in the dark, as far as finding some sort of community of people that had done this before. And at first I did not take to it. I didn't take to it at all because I have more of a broad definition of a higher power. When at that time I didn't have any definition. I had tried, religious counseling. I felt like I had tried it all as far as religion was concerned, and I just wasn't finding something that spoke to me. And the 12 steps for AA is a spiritual program, so I struggled with that. I went through my first year just kind of trying to see if it was for me. And in that time, I started Sober in Knoxville, the Instagram page. And that also was born out of that social need to connect. Because I wasn't identifying a lot on the AA side at first, I just wanted to see if there was a community out there that felt a little bit in between. Because like I said, I had all those yets. I hadn't, got a DUI or got arrested. I didn't have a lot of repercussions, like public repercussions for my actions. And so I just thought, I don't know if I can connect. And so I started looking online for communities, and I found it's called the Sober City Movement. And she had started out in Seattle, Washington. Her name is Alex Hayes. And just started this kind of community of people that could pick up just sober insert city name, and start doing some sober events just to get people together. So I started doing that very shortly after I got sober, and found more people like me. I think that's one of the positives of social media, is that I found a lot of people like me that felt in between, that didn't know if, going into this whole big 12-step program thing was for them. And then I just started to find out about all of the recovery community. I started learning about SMART recovery. I started learning about Celebrate recovery. Basically book clubs people get sober on, essentially just reading a book together. And so I just thought that was so cool, like how diverse this can be, and that I really can make it my own, and that's kind of the point, is like to do what works well for you. And so personally, I'm what they call California sober. So that was a big shame point for me in the beginning. Am I really sober? Am I not? Some people don't think I am. But for me, I'm not having knockdown, drag out fights with my husband anymore. And I'm not waking up filled with shame and regret. And I'm not hurting the people that I love. So, so in that sense, I am sober. And maybe it's more of an emotional soberness, however people want to define it. But that was something I had to overcome as well. And even then, I've taken a look at my relationship with that. I take a look at my relationship with all substances now. I'm like, am I having too much caffeine? What kind of sugar count is in this? So I think it's just like this huge ripple effect of like health and wellness at the end of the day. So yes, we started sober in Knoxville. We started some meetings there too for some people that are a little apprehensive of 12-step programs. They're called emotional sobriety meetings, and they are very free form. It's very much come and talk about what you need to in a group setting, respect and things like that between each other. And that grew into 3 self-run meetings. We started at the Butchery, and I was there every week, every Sunday, leading and doing that. We're at the Butchery, Noble Kava for our Cali sober friends, and Kraken's Cup in North Knoxville, with 3 meetings that happen 3 times a week that are completely self-run now. And so I think that's awesome, just to create alternatives like that for people to talk about what they want. And to expand like sober curiousness. That's just opened up our community so much too, because some of the people that come to those meetings, they don't have the romantic relationship with alcohol that I had. They can drink one and put it down or not finish it. That doesn't make sense to me. And so, but they have other issues. Maybe they're codependent. Maybe they struggle with some mental health stuff that they'd like to talk about. And so that meeting is open for all of them too. So yeah. And the idea for the sober bar has been here pretty much all along. I wanted to open a bar when I was drinking. I'm glad I didn't. I don't think that would have gone very well. But I love the community behind a bar space, the socializing, the bringing people together. And I hope that we can provide something here that is fruitful and fulfilling for people. So we hope to have another emotional sobriety meeting out here when we can, any sort of education that we can bring to the community, but also fun. So we're just going to do all the same stuff that we were doing drinking, but we're going to remember it tomorrow. So
Incredible.
Absolutely.
So something you mentioned a couple of times, and I'm sure many other people have said the same thing, but the only other person I've heard explain it like you did is this guy right here, talking about being married to alcohol, having a romantic relationship with alcohol. And I think it was like our very first season of the podcast. I don't even know I don't even think we were videoing. I think it was just voice recording. And he had said something like, I've never cheated on my wife with another person, but I 100% have cheated on my wife with alcohol and gambling as well for him. Um, he said it was my wife, my mistress, my love. It consumed everything. And so again, I'm sure many other people have made that comparison, but you're the first one outside of him who I've heard say that.
Mm.
And I mean, it really is a testament to how strong that trauma bond is with alcohol,
Mhm.
because you're hurting yourself. You know that in your logical mind, but at the same time, it's the only thing that provides an excuse or relief to anything.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a really cool similarity between the two of
Mhm.
you. Also, I love Sober in Knoxville, and I love all these meetings you have, because we are seeing sobriety and programs and meetings be more on a spectrum and open. Um, and there's nothing wrong with AA. We encourage whatever works for you. I mean, I can't remember who said it on a previous episode, but they're like, any program you do works if you work
If you
it.
work it. Yep.
Mhm.
Like, it's not about like, oh, AA didn't work for me. Well, it didn't, you didn't work it. Like, because it didn't resonate with you. But if you do the steps, it works. But we're opening it up to people to say, listen, it's not a one size fits all. You don't have to be a person of faith. You don't have to be like self-diagnosed alcoholic. We're realizing that any issue you have with anything in your life follows under this umbrella of mental health, right? Like the
Yeah.
drinking or drug use or gambling or sex or whatever it is, because it can be an infinite number of things, is merely a symptom and a coping mechanism for what really is going on. And
Mhm.
so I love that you open these meetings to be like, hey, like, even if you don't plan on quitting drinking, or even if you've never taken a sip of alcohol in your life, this is a space where we can just talk about the human experience and how hard it is just to like get up in the morning and make good choices sometimes. And I think that makes it so much more palatable and so much more obtainable for people, because sobriety can feel very, very intimidating and
Oh, yeah.
scary. Like, you have to meet this certain criteria. And again, we've talked about this
Yeah.
before, but no, you don't. And
Yeah.
you're so right about it. It initiates or sparks you evaluating everything in your life, right? Like,
Mhm.
is this serving me? Is this bringing me any good? Is this healthy for me? Is this what I want to be doing to my body? And questioning your relationship with anything and anyone
Mhm.
in a positive way is always going to result in something good.
Yeah.
You talked about you and your husband getting sober and wondering if that relationship, that bond that you had, was going to carry over. And we had the exact same worries.
Mhm.
Because we met in a bar, both drinking, all of that. Um, and I remember us sitting down and talking. And again, we've talked about this, but being like, are we going to like each other sober? Like, what if we
Yeah.
come to find out that we're just like best friends?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or what if we come to find out that we like fucking hate each other? Like,
Right. I know.
no. And luckily that didn't happen, but there's a lot of what ifs, and I think a lot of people are resistant to go to meetings or even consider sobriety because those what ifs are really, really scary. Even if you know they're going to be better, it's not familiar and it's really, really scary.
Oh, yeah.
And your story is like incredible. I love the sober bar idea. I love how inclusive you are and how broad your reach is. It feels very comforting and very, I don't, easy is not the right word, but like not intimidating. It doesn't feel like you have to
Yeah.
climb a mountain to participate. So I
Oh,
really like it.
good. Good. Yeah, that's the goal for sure.
Yeah, and I like you said, and Jessica's mentioned this too, because Jessica's sober and she never hit a rock bottom or anything. She just wanted to change her relationship with alcohol because it was affecting others.
Yeah.
Which is great. Which you've shown the same thing, right? I mean, you were a drinker, but you never hit that rock bottom. I mean, maybe behind closed doors, people weren't seeing that. Did you get, how was the response to friends, family, things like that when you said, now I'm sober?
Drinking buddies.
Yeah, or your drinking buddies, where they were like, wow, you act, you have a problem. Did you get that a lot? How did you combat all that?
Yeah, I think I don't think our friends were quite as shocked. I don't know, I think we've like taken the air and the like pomp out of this word alcoholic. That's just more of a societal shift, which is great, just people recovering out loud. But it definitely was more of like, oh, we're not drinking anymore, versus like, we're alcoholics at first. And I remember very vividly one of our friends was like once it kind of came out, yeah, we're doing the 12-step program and we're, whatever. He goes, well, we just kind of thought you guys were crazy. We didn't know you had a problem. I think that is the problem. So it was just pretty funny. We actually didn't lose as many friends as some people kind of talk about. And I think maybe that's just my definition of a friend. Yeah, I'm sure there were people that, we met or were frequent talkers to at the bars, but I was never in a state of remembering these people, So to me, it wasn't like I lost friends. I just, if I see you, I'm going to have to be reminded who you are. Thankfully I don't have to do that anymore. But yeah, so it was, I think the biggest shock was probably from my mom. Just because she had seen and heard a lot of, I think she saw and heard a lot of stuff from my point of view, as far as any sort of, like when we would visit family or holidays, the way that we drank when we were around other people. Thankfully, a lot of our family, well, maybe thankfully or unthankfully, I'm not sure at this point, but we're not around for our fights. And so they just didn't know how bad it had got. And I think that was one of my rock bottoms, is that last night, I would always call his mom as a way to like, okay, talk to your mom, get situated. And I'm sure she loved me for that. But she, sorry, my mom, that last night, it was the first time that I called her instead. And so I think that was where I clicked. I was like, okay, now people that are going to hold me accountable are going to know. And I can't turn back. When everything is a secret, it's easy to keep doing what you're doing. But the moment that I called her and had to kind of explain what was going on, what had been going on, it was like, okay, I can't go back to mom and tell her I've changed my mind. She will, the cat's out of the bag at that point. So I think she was the most shocked. I think for a long time, she thought it was kind of is she doing this because he's doing this kind of thing? And I thought that for a long time too. But when I really started to learn the behaviors of a person that has the disease of alcoholism, there was just no denying it. I just happened to get off the elevator a little bit earlier than other people. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. So So yeah, they were kind of shocked. He had a few more incidences on his side of the family and things like that. So I don't know if they were as shocked. They also have it in their family line a little bit. So so I don't think they were as shocked. But I think on my side of things, people were kind of like, really?
Yeah.
But I also think it's so bizarre. Like, I've seen videos of myself blackout, and I wouldn't have been able to tell you that I was drunk. And so I also just think it was how I was whenever I was drinking, or that it had gotten to a point where my body was so used to it that being on autopilot, I didn't look drunk. So I think that was also played a role.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. When I finally made the decision, what I was going to do, and I came, I kind of kept it close for a while, other than family. But when I finally came out to everybody, like, on social media, right, and told everybody, hey, I'm sober. I did it for a couple reasons. Number one, I wanted everybody to know, so that it helped kind of bring it down when someone said, hey, you want to go grab a drink or something? No, I don't, and here's why. But number two was for accountability. Kind of like yourself, it's like I don't want to let friends, family, more importantly, I don't want to let down, but also they kind of hold me accountable a little bit, because I don't want to let my kids down or my wife down. So yeah, I think that it's phenomenal to get it out there, because I think the more you hold it in, I think that's when you see people slip, or go back to their old ways, because they don't have that accountability. And another thing you said, the term alcoholic, I've never used that term. To me, I'm just a non-drinker. Maybe was I an alcoholic? Maybe, but who determines that? I don't know. So, I just look at myself as a non-drinker now, which to me is more powerful than anything, because I can say I choose not to be that way anymore.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, like our family and immediate friends definitely knew that there was an issue with drinking,
Yeah.
and that alcoholism as the disease was present and alive and thriving. But outside of that, like his work or like our daughter's school friends and people like that, they wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's never good to have a rock bottom and for something horrible to happen, but at the same time, sometimes that's a blessing. I hate to say that. I don't mean that like, oh, it's good. But the scariest was, when he was like heavy in his drinking, I would constantly go through my head saying, he's never going to quit drinking because he's thriving in his job. Everything looks great from the outside. I put on this facade because who wants to pretend like, I mean, we used to be the couple that like our close friends would either just very politely decline coming over or wouldn't invite us to things because they'd be like, Ryan's going to get drunk and then Jess is going to get mad. And it's going to be this thing and we're not, and they're going to argue and we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, and we used to be that couple where people are like, they just fucking hate each other. Like, you know what I mean? Now, again, if you step outside of the immediate circle, nobody thought that.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where, for us, when your immediate circle knows, you just accept the fact that they know and they love you anyways, and it eventually doesn't bother you anymore, right? Because it is what it is. But the scariest is when your life is thriving and looking good and you can like keep that facade up. It almost makes it harder to want to get sober and change, because you're right. You're like, I don't meet the criteria. What are you talking about? It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Everything else is the problem. It's not the alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So I always was worried. I was like, he's never going to get sober because he gets a raise every year.
Nothing's wrong. Yeah.
We built a, beautiful house, and our daughter loves him and has never seen him drunk. And I don't want to speak for you, but he's had a couple rock bottoms, but his true rock bottom was the first time our daughter saw him not quite blackout drunk, but maybe
Getting
one or
damn
two
close.
beers
Yeah.
in. And Ryan would get very like verbally aggressive towards anybody. Like it was just whoever you were, if you were standing in front of him, tag, you're it, right?
Yeah.
And he got very verbally aggressive in front of her, and he saw her cry, and it was like oh shit.
Yeah.
So kind of that same thing with like your mom. That's why I bring that up, is it's like I think that you could see that facade chipping away, but you were being exposed to the one person who you had never been exposed to before, who you didn't want to ever see that side of you.
Yeah.
And it really is like putting a mirror up and being like, look at you, you stupid idiot. You know, like, what are you doing? And in turn, like Ryan said, I never really had a rock bottom. I was the person who could not finish a drink, who could put a drink down. Like,
I had to finish your drinks.
Right. But I was that person who like would have half of one beer or half of a glass of wine and put it away. And so to take it a step further, I'm like, I don't have a problem with alcohol because I've never done anything. Like, I've never been arrested. I've never like abused or, verbally done anything. And I've never gotten blackout. I don't drink and drive. I don't do any of these things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until everybody in my life got sober that I realized you don't have to do those things. They don't have to be present in your life. Alcohol for me it just got to a point where I was like, I don't want this present in my life anymore. I don't want it to hurt me. I don't want it to hurt the people around me. And we've heard so many more people that say that. They're like, listen, I was a great moderator. I never drank to excess. I've never blacked out. I've never done this. But once you learn about like literally even just what it does to your brain and your body and your internal organs and how long it takes to recover, something clicks where you're like, "Why? I don't want to participate in this poison anymore. I don't want to continue to do this." It's like continuing to burn yourself with a lighter over and over and over again. You're like, "Well, it hasn't scarred yet."
Yeah.
Well, eventually it's going to. So yeah, we have two very different sobriety stories, but very similar in a way that they never really presented past immediate family as an issue.
Yeah.
And sometimes that works against you.
Absolutely.
So I thought your story with your mom was interesting because it does sound a whole lot like your story that night with Lily.
Yeah.
Which was a big moment for you.
Very big, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. A similar one, obviously, dog versus human child, but Daisy, who's the bar is named after, I had a situation it wasn't the last time I ever did anything, but it was definitely I probably shouldn't do that. But yeah, I had gotten to a point where I was drinking at work. And so I worked out in Hardin Valley. I would go over to like Orange Hat or Double Dogs on my lunch break, or towards the end, just had beers in the freezer or refrigerator at the work. And we had been doing something, I think it was a Friday. I could bring Daisy to the office if I wanted to. And I left for the day and started driving to a brewery to go after work. And my boss calls and she said, "Did you forget something?" And I was like, "I don't think so. I'm ready for the weekend." And Daisy was left at the office. So that didn't make me feel very good about myself at all. Poor gal. She's been through it, but she still loves us anyways. So
it's those culmination of little moments, right?
Yes.
Like it may have been that phone call with your mom. It may have been that night with Lily, but there were plenty, like for years, other moments that I could see on his face where he's like, Oh, fuck.
Oh,
You know, like
yeah.
our daughter as a baby used to always get nursemaid's elbow, which means that her elbow would like come out of socket, and it's harmless
Yeah.
and no big deal, and it's easy to fix. But the first couple times that happened, we had to take her to the emergency room, and he both times was like too drunk
Yeah, it was
to
real late at
go.
night when it happened.
And, you know, it wasn't until he got sober recently that he's like, you know, that I just
Scary
feel
shit.
terrible about that like I was too, like, what if you, like, talking to me, what if you had been out of town or
Yeah.
something and I can't drive my child to the hospital? And you start thinking about those things. It's the same
Yeah.
thing because you leave your dog at work and people can laugh because it's a dog, but it's serious. Like, you're
Yeah.
like, like, what if something happened and
Yeah.
I like left her outside
Yeah.
or left the door open and she ran out or she's sick and I can't take her. And
Yeah.
it really does. It may not be what prompts you to get sober, but it starts some sort of gear in the back of your mind, you
Absolutely.
know,
No problem.
that you're like,
Yeah.
and which
Yeah.
unfortunately most of the time makes you drink more because you're like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it gets worse before it gets better. But yeah, I mean, your story is really powerful and what you're doing for the community is great. We used to go to Orange Hat and Double Dogs and drink a lot too. So we may be one of your blackout nights.
Yeah, me
We
there.
may have been there and witnessed it, or we just didn't know it. I was one of those people, right?
We probably took shots together at some point, or
Right.
like
That's so
passed each other toilet paper in the bathroom or
Right.
something. Like, that's
well.
so funny.
Lindsay, you got 4.5 years under your belt, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What would you and you're out in the community a lot too, so you see a lot of, you know, what we would call newbies. I think if you have under 5 years, you're new, but
Yeah. Right.
you know, people just kind of starting out. What is your advice to people that are, you know, either sober curious or just starting out, trying to hang on for dear life? What kind of advice do you give those people?
Community, community, community. That's just been the game changer for me. And I think, like you kind of said before, like it works if you work it, that saying. Like I work a 12-step program. I feel way more connected when I started trying, but it did take for me to find those alternatives and some alternative thinking to get me to stay. And it also just took me speaking my mind. Like I think a lot of the times we kind of try to join community and then we just leave community if it doesn't fit exactly the way we want it to. And so I think I really challenged myself with that because I stayed in it for a year before I truly felt connected. And but I use it as a supplement. Like nowadays, like I like envision it like all these Venn diagrams of different communities, and I'm the overlapping piece. So like when I started to get sober, I got my yoga teacher training certificate and I started teaching yoga, and we'll do that at the bar too. And so I have a yoga community. I have a community of a studio out here. I have a community of students that I taught and other teachers that I can learn from. Then I have like the sober in Knoxville community, and that's going to include a lot more of the sober curious, Cali sober, you know, the social media sober, and more of the events and that social life. And then I have this, you know, program, this AA community, which for me does serve more like a church. I actually understand more now why people go to church than I did when I was following a faith. I'm like, oh, I get it. You want to be part of something. And it just really has challenged me to think about what I think, decide what works for me in that idea of spirituality. And what I think people miss sometimes in some of these more spiritual programs, depending on what it is to choose your own adventure. It's just to choose your own adventure. Same with my sobriety journey. you know, I didn't drink. I tell people that I like water down my AA Kool-Aid. Like I have half Kool-Aid, half water. I didn't drink the full Kool-Aid because I think that there's so many other ways to get sober. And so I love the program. I love that it's given me such a great foundation and a great community of these meetings and things that I can go to in person. And I also love the Facebook group that I'm in that supports Cali sobriety and sobriety with medical assistance and things like that. So I have that. And then I have the Sober in Knoxville community. And I still have my friends that drink. And so it's just, sometimes I think when I hear people talk about sobriety, it starts to sound like this wonderful transformative fairy tale. And it really is. I mean, the only reason that this bar is happening, the only reason that we have people show up on community days to help us build this bar is because I'm sober. I just did not connect, and I didn't want to connect when I was drinking with other people. I remember when I first got sober and I told one of my mentors, like, I hate people. I don't like people. People are, X, Y, and Z. And really that all just stemmed from fear. I like fear of other people accepting me, or what do they think about me, or this, that, or the other. And she was like, oh, I hope when we get through this that you love people. She said, because I love people and I think they're so unique and amazing and full of love. And I was like, you're off your rocker. I mean, like, are you in the same world as me? And I can now, after 4.5 years, it probably hit around 3 years where I started to like people again. So it takes time. But it is a fairy tale transformation, but it takes time. And it doesn't happen overnight. And there's a lot of hard parts of it and a lot of uncertainty. And I think that's, it's truly scary. Like we were talking about before, just to change. There's always the question of what am I going to do to have fun? And truly it has opened up so many more areas of fun. Because like you said, like I'm not doing the mental gymnastics of, okay, I'm going to go to this place, but where can I grab a beer before, during, and after? Or, like, do I need to pack my own water bottle of not water, so we can just go anywhere now. It truly is like a greater freedom than ever before. So.
Yeah, as you were talking about being, uncomfortable, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is
Absolutely.
which is hard for a lot of people to do. And the fear you talked about is what we would lead us to drinking, basically, because you're trying to drink that fear away.
Yeah.
But once you start facing it head on, as you have, and myself, and you realize, why was I avoiding this the whole time? I mean, this is fucking amazing, right? I mean, even just, waking up with 8 hours of sleep, after about 30, 60 days of sobriety, and realizing, wow, I mean, you really feel like a different person.
And waking up and not having to like check your phone.
Check your phone to see
that was
what
a
did I
big
do?
thing for him, because when we would go on vacations, I mean, I tell people we've only recently actually started taking vacation. We've traveled the entire duration of our marriage.
Yeah.
But only recently has it felt like vacation.
True vacation.
Because it would always be like,
everything was planned around drinking.
Yeah.
What am I going to get a beer?
If you're drunk, like, let me drive.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And one of the things he told me when he got sober is he's like, it's like actual vacation. Like, I don't wake up the next morning feeling like shit going, okay, who did I piss? Did Jess and I fight last night? What did Lily see? Like all of these things. And he's like, it feels so fucking good to wake up.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking over my shoulder. I'm not worried about I don't have any of that anxiety.
Yeah.
Actually, fun story. We recently went to Orlando and did Halloween Horror Nights at Universal.
Fun.
And I don't like haunted houses. I like the
Neither.
scary stuff, but I don't do haunted houses. And he has always said that he doesn't do haunted houses. He's like, no, there's no way. I'm scared I'll end up hitting someone,
Yeah,
like
right.
just being reactive. And he was like really stressing about going through these haunted houses because our daughter, who is 14, about to be 15, loves them, right?
Oh,
Because she's
gosh.
14 and nothing bad has happened to her yet. So, she's not afraid of anything. And so, he's like, well, I want her to have fun. So I want to go through the haunted houses, right? And he goes to the first one and he's like, that was just silly. And I, like, the whole time I'm like this,
Face the fear.
I did 3 haunted houses and eventually had a panic attack and I was like, I'm done. You know
Gosh,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, eyes closed. He went to the second one and he was like, that's not bad. The third one he went through was like the scariest in the park and still just laughed.
Laugh my ass off.
He ended up actually going back the next day, which we weren't planning on doing. And he did every single haunted house. He did all
Oh
the
my gosh.
things. And we were on our way back to the hotel. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm sure you're having this like self-reflective moment where you realize how much aggression and hostility and reactiveness and emotional just disconnection you had from drinking, because he was so afraid
Yeah.
that he was going to react or be scared. And I don't think it was until that moment that he realized, I'm not a reactive,
Mm-hmm.
that
That's not
Yeah.
person. Like, it really was the alcohol, and he always thought it was just him. He was an athlete and hockey and fighting. And it's really cool because with sobriety, even when you think you have it nailed, there's always something around the corner that's going to make you go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And just seeing that look on he really did look like a 10-year-old kid, like skipping around at Halloween Horror Nights,
That's
like,
awesome.
wanting to eat hot dogs and all that stuff. So it was really beautiful to see how proud he was of himself and that full circle moment. Like,
I
that was
love
really
it.
cool.
Yeah. We call that like reclaiming spaces.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Lindsay, before we get you out of here, we have to get a good story from you, as we do from all guests, from your old drinking days, if you don't mind.
If you remember them.
If you remember them.
Watch the videos afterwards.
Yeah, or one of your videos. We got to get a good drinking story. If it involves pee, obviously that's just like
Peeing, falling, running around naked.
Yeah.
We've heard, all of those things are very normal.
That's right. Here we go.
There's my checkbox list again. Yeah. No, I do have all of those. I think one of the funniest that I can remember off the top of my head was my 20th birthday. So sorry, cops.
Not even of age. That's right.
Hopefully the statute of limitations out on that, but I'm 32 now. So 20 years old on UT's campus. I was a little bit different growing up. I didn't want to grow up. All my friends had their fake IDs and stuff in high school. And I was like, no, let's just stay here. No responsibilities. And so anyways, we're partying for my 20th birthday at UT's campus, all my friends. We start to walk back. I lived on Laurel. I was in a sorority. Lived up in Laurel Apartments, if anybody's familiar with that. Huge hill up from the bars. So that was always fun. So we're trekking up. It's me and my friend and my now husband, who's my boyfriend then. And I am sobbing. I'm so sad because I have now officially left my teenage years. I am wailing all the way up Laurel Avenue. My friend says I hugged a tree. So I am actually a tree hugger. It's proven. I hugged and held on to the tree and I would not move. I just was so beside myself to have left 19 years old in the past. I didn't want to be 20. I didn't want to grow up. And here I was trying to act like a grown up, getting drunk. And yeah, I stayed on that tree, and my husband starts hiking up the hill, and my best friend is like, "What are you doing? We have to get her." And he's like kind of treating me like an old dog. He's like, "She'll come." And sure enough, she started walking away, and I was like, "No," and like galloped after them. So that was fun. I wanted to tell the one, it was the same birthday, my 20th, and we were driving probably to said campus, I think. And I had to be put in the back seat. I couldn't drive us. But I started singing some song, and we have it on video. My best friend does. And it's a classic. I can't remember how it goes, but it's definitely something about my birthday and definitely something about how much fun we're going to have.
That's awesome.
So, made up songs and tree hugging.
That's right.
And okay, so that was 12 years ago. So that was still when the strip, like on UT campus, was like,
yeah, it was going.
It was like,
I remember those days. Yeah.
I remember, again, blackout nights. I remember going. I remember going and seeing the Afro Man at one of the clubs down there. And
I was there.
And I was right up front, and I was so drunk. I was like, "Sign my boobs." I had a tube top on, and he signed like my tube top over my boob, and I'm just thinking, "Oh my God!" I was that girl. They're like, "That girl just had Afro Man sign her tits. Like, what is going on?" So yeah. You were probably there going, "Yeah, do it."
Yeah, probably. I was a bad influence.
That's great. Oh my gosh.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming on today. I look forward to coming out and checking the bar out soon.
Oh yeah. So, we'll have to go live with the podcast out there or something.
That would be so
fun. Spoiler alert, we're going to have your husband on here in the next few months as well. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, I'll rope him into it.
Just trick him.
That's right.
He'll be happy to just sit down after all this construction.
Oh, I'm sure. He'll need the break.
Just come sit over here for an hour. No worries.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys, too. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lindsay. Have a good one.
Bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.